For housing issues, please call 818-548-2060. For City Council business, please call 818-548-4844. On Wednesday, April 10th, the Planning Hearing Officer will meet at 9:30 a.m. in room 105 of the Municipal Services Building. For details, please call 818-548-2140. The Verdugo Workforce Investment Board wants your input on how to use federal funding to provide workforce services for unemployed job seekers, adults, youth, and local businesses. The board is holding a public hearing to solicit public comment and recommendations on its 5-year plan. The meeting will be from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at the Verdugo Job Center, 1255 South Central Avenue. For more information, please call 818-548-3324. At 4:30 p.m. is the I Love My Neighborhood Poster Contest Award Ceremony at the Civic Auditorium. Come by and see the students' award-winning artwork on neighborhood pride and keeping their community clean. For more information, please call 818-548-3700. At 5 p.m., the Civil Service Commission will meet in City Council chambers. For details, please call 818-548-2110. April 10th is another free self-defense class offered by the Commission on the Status of Women. The 3 weeks of free courses is in recognition of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This week's class will be hosted at Glendale Community College from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Pre-registration is required. To sign up, call 818-548-4844. For an informational flyer, check the city's recent press releases at ci.glendale.ca.us. On Thursday, April 11th, Design Review Board Number 1 will meet at 5 p.m. in room 105 of the Municipal Services Building. For more information, please call 818-548-2140. At 7 p.m., a group of therapists from D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services Armunity Program will discuss the Armenian Genocide and psychological aftereffects. The presentation will be at the Central Library. For details, please call 818-548-3288. On Saturday, April 13th, the Central Library will host a loading dock book sale beginning at 9 a.m. Come by to pick up great used books for a great price. For more information, please call 818-548-2030. Stay connected with Glendale's
Good evening and welcome to the April 10th meeting of the Civil Service Commission. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Manukian?
Here.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Here.
Commissioner Gantis? Here. Commissioner Hatamian?
Here.
Chair Devine?
Here. What is the next item, please?
Minutes?
Move to approve, dispense from reading.
Okay, we need a roll call on that one.
Second.
Commissioner Manukian?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis? Commissioner Hatamian?
Yes.
Chair Devine?
I abstain. I was not here.
Okay.
Absolutely did read them. Next item, please.
Oral communications?
I have no cards. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the commission on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Recruitment and examination report.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item is our recruitment and examination status report. It shows all of our current recruitment activity spread amongst the various members of my staff. Again, the report lists the job titles, whether it's an open or promotional recruitment process, the dates that opened and closed, any exam dates, and this is mainly a tool for our staff to follow along with what the recruitment activity is, and it's provided here for your information. If you have questions on any of these recruitments, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Are there any questions on the recruitment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Eligible lists established.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is again a note and file item, simply information on the eligible lists that have been established since our last meeting, which was approximately 2 weeks ago. As you can see, we had 5 lists that have been established. Again, this comes at the culmination of a recruitment process. These are 5 lists that are all promotional. It's nice to keep in-house. The list shows the number of applications received in one column, and then at the far right column, the number of people who ultimately made it through the testing processes to appear on our eligible lists. So again, it's a note and file item, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Class specification for approval. Principal Economic Development Officer.
Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, if we could skip over this item and go to the next one. Mr. Lanzafame is running a bit late, and the item that affects his operation. So.
Okay, fine. We'll move on to the next item.
Job bulletin for approval. Fire engineer.
Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item is approval of a job bulletin for the position of fire engineer. This is a very important position within the fire department. A person who drives and operates the apparatus, the trucks and the engines. Very, very challenging examination process. As per the civil service rules, this is one of those job bulletins that is required to come before you. It's a sworn safety promotional position, and therefore it's being brought before you for your approval. The bulletin is, for the most part, fully consistent with the approved class specification on file. There is one exception, and the staff and the fire department agree that we've pulled out one. It's a Smith System Driver Awareness course that was listed as a prerequisite for this position. It is requested to not have this part of the bulletin for various reasons, but the biggest reason is that it's somewhat of a redundancy. This is a requirement that would fall on it's about the 3rd page of the job bulletin, where we talk about education, training, and the various certifications. We have various other classes that need to be taken by these individuals as a prerequisite, including driver operator 1A and 1B, and the certified acting engineer program, which we believe fully covers all the things that they would need to know as far as being an effective driver. And ultimately, when we update the spec, we will pull this again, the Smith System Driver Awareness course off of this. Other than that, again, the bulletin is here for your approval. So you can see the selection process, very very much involved. There's written exam component, which is 25% of the total score, and then there's a very extensive performance exam, which involves a pre-check of the apparatus, drafting skill, aerial ladder truck operation, a hydrant exercise, and a acting captain engineer skill exercise. So candidates have to pass each of those 5 or 6 areas that I mentioned in order to make it on the list. That's essentially our process. So, and if you have questions, this item is here for your approval. And we have Ms. Hunanian here and Chief Tom Probst as well, if you have questions.
Mr. Manukian.
No, I was just going to say, move to approve if anybody doesn't have a question, but I'm sure John has a
Mr.
question.
Gaddis.
So do I.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gantis, the written comes first. And typically, we'll start out with a larger pool of candidates. Even though this is a promotional exam and it's limited to in-house candidates, mainly employees from the firefighter rank, we would start out with the largest number of the candidates in the written exam, and in order to proceed at that point, the individuals would have to pass the written, and then they would proceed to the various performance components, which is a lot more challenging to organize. Typically, the performance exam, it'll take several hours for each candidate to go through each of these iterations.
So if I'm reading this correctly, because it doesn't technically say that you have to do the written to go to the performance, but it goes on and says there's only going to be 10 candidates from the written that must have at least a 70 score to move forward. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Gandis, when it says on the selection process written qualifying, and then it says 25%, that qualifying means you got to pass that to go to the next phase. So.
And even if there were 15 people at above 70, the top 10 of the above 70 are taken.
That's correct.
Okay. So there have to be 10 people to pass.
It's very cumbersome to administer this exam, and as you might be aware, when we do any type of promotional exam, we get people from outside of the organization to come in and evaluate the candidates, so there aren't any biases or lack of objectivity. So for an exam like this, we probably need 2 or 3 people for each of these components from our surrounding fire agencies in Burbank, Arcadia, Pasadena. So it takes a good 15 to 20 individuals to be here just to do the evaluation portions, not to mention all the time that it takes staff to prepare and monitor this.
Thank you.
Kazarian.
I noticed that there is no oral component to the exam. Am I correct?
That is correct, although this acting captain engineer skill exercise, does that contain an oral? Why don't one of you come up here?
Yeah, you need to talk. That's a requirement.
This is
Hi, Chairman Devine and Commissioners. My name is Tom Probst, Battalion Chief in charge of training for the Fire Department. And the acting captain engineer skill position is a oral performance. They'll be subjected to a series of questions related to the position as an acting captain. So when the captain or supervisor is away from the company for a short period of time, if that would occur, that individual would move from the engineer's position to the supervisor's position in a temporary position, and that's mainly just for a period of a few hours. So they would have to be able to perform in that position, understand what that position, how it operates and performs. So there's a series of some questions related to the supervisory role.
But that's not in the job specification, is it? In the fire engineer position, when we're talking about the selection process, we have provided for a written and a performance exam, but not an oral exam.
That is part of the performance exam under
Okay.
the acting captain engineer skills, which I believe is about 15% of the overall score. That will be one component or section of the exam.
I see. The acting captain engineer skills exercise 15% has an oral examination element to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And
Of the
while-
total score.
Right. Of the total score of the what, the 15% or the 75% portion?
Of the 75.
Which itself, as I notice, is divided into various components which really add up to 100%. So it's the 100% of the 75% that we have subdivided in that section that we have labeled performance. Am I correct?
That's correct.
I see Mr. Doyle nodding in the affirmative. Okay.
A lot of numbers.
Right. Very well. That's it. Thank you very much. I have no
And
further
Commissioner
questions.
Gazarian, the candidates who are skilled enough to make it through this process, they get put on an eligibility list, and at that point, depending on their ranking, they are then given administered an interview by the fire chief. So there is an oral portion at that point.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Mr. Tomian, do you have any questions? I have a couple. How big a candidate pool do you expect on this?
Generally, we have anywhere from 15 to 25 that would be eligible. We just provided a engineer's exam in the past 6 months, but at the end of the year, we had several retirements that we currently have 4 openings, so there's a need for additional test again.
You say you have 4 openings at this
Correct.
point?
4 openings
Okay.
today.
And how many female potential candidates are there in that group?
0. Currently, we had 1 female fire captain, Captain Davis, who retired in December. Currently, we don't have any sworn female firefighters in our department. We do have females.
Are you doing any recruitment in that area?
We will be, yes. We'll be starting in the next few months to prepare for a firefighter recruitment academy, which will be in about a year from now. But we'll be starting to heavily recruit over the period of the next 4 to 5 months to attract several people that we'd like to have to hopefully take our test and be part of our fire family.
Great.
And Chair Devine, we hope to draw many of those candidates from our ambulance operator and fire cadet pool, which is probably pretty diverse in all areas, including as far as having females representation. So,
I know we had discussion several years ago about this and the lack of female participants, and it was my understanding they were going to make some efforts to remedy that, and hopefully you're moving up ahead with that.
Yeah, as Mr. Doyle stated, our ambulance operator program, we do have some females in our program currently, and they will be eligible if they meet the criteria, basically, which is hours or time in the position, are eligible to be promoted into the Fire Recruit Academy.
That's great.
So we have some candidates available, but we'll be recruiting as well to seek out more.
Great, thank you. I have no further questions.
I was going to ask, is the physical examination the same for women as it is for men?
Yes, it is.
I can't pass that. I mean, that's really difficult.
Yeah. Currently, we use a statewide recognized exam to where if you tested Northern California or Southern, it's the same, and it's for all.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this issue, as Mr. Doyle pointed out and as you pointed out, was exhaustively reviewed.
Remember.
I'm not sure if you both were on the
We
commission
were.
at the time.
We were. It was-
If you recall, there was a packet and there was a big article. Mr. Manukian has really kind of hit the nail on the head. The fact of the matter is the physical test is the same for the men as it is for the women, and God did not deem, I think, or the women generally have difficulty, as I understand it. I actually work out at the Equinox in Pasadena, and there was a L.A. fire captain that worked out, and she was on the L.A. City Fire, and I actually spoke to her about this issue. Number one, I'd watch her work out. Sam, trust me, you and I combined could not work out as she worked out. It was
You have to in order to
unbelievable workout regimen that she had. And she indicated the same thing. She has to do exactly what the men have to do, and so she has to work that much harder. But that is the way it is, and while I share Mr. Devine's concern, and it's obviously always a concern that we want to be diverse, we certainly don't want to have anybody that's not capable of lifting those hoses, for instance, et cetera, et cetera. So while I agree with the idea of recruiting, we certainly don't want to have standards that are different. And I don't think they can. They're statewide standards, and they're the same.
I appreciate your concerns, but and there are males that don't pass that exam as well.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be
They're sitting on this council,
it's
this
challenging.
chamber.
Young males, but it's challenging for all. But
Excuse me, young.
appreciate.
Were you referencing that maybe some of us weren't young?
Move to
Okay,
approve.
do we have motion, second?
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have a unanimous consent. Thank you very much. Appreciate your appearance. Okay, we'll move back to the item concerning Mr. Lanzafame. Can you read that into the record, please, again?
Class specification for approval, Principal Economic Development Officer.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a newly developed class specification. It's the title being Principal Economic Development Officer. And this is a position and classification that was established by the City Council last month. This classification is sort of a key component of the economic development's functions transition to the city manager's office. This function has moved around a bit in the past few years with initial consolidation with community development, the loss of, it used to be in the what we would call the redevelopment department, and that's been turned upside down. And I think at this point, Mr. Ochoa believes that this operation really does need to be in the city manager's office, working with the city manager's staff, the community relations team, public information officer, on various things that this organization can do to attract and retain business in the city. This classification will be used to fill two positions. One will be focusing on business attraction, retention, and marketing, and the other more of an administrative angle, handling business services and asset management and development. These positions are already funded. In fact, they're being reallocated. We have a vacant deputy director position, which is being downgraded to fill one of these positions, and then we have another economic development position, which will be upgraded to accomplish having both of these positions filled. Upon the Commission's approval, we hope to do the internal recruitment. Probably doing a promotional to fill one and an open to fill another. Recruitment process and have these positions filled. So with that, if you have questions, again, I'd be happy to try and answer them on this specification. Mr. Lanzafame is here, along with Amy Martin from my staff.
Any questions?
No,
Seeing
Well, I
none?
do have. So basically, we're not adding any positions, we're just reallocating existing positions to fulfill these, is that correct?
Mr. Gantis, that's correct.
And then, but the executive officer is basically the person that used to be the redevelopment director, is that a fair statement?
That's correct. That's Phil Lanzafame.
I don't normally mention names, but Phil. I personally think this is a brilliant idea. This way the city manager knows exactly what's going on and what kind of businesses were coming directly into his office. I think that's a fabulous.
and this is a very important position.
Very important.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have unanimous consent. Thanks for the brilliant presentation, Mr.
Mr.
Lanzafame.
Lanzafame, you haven't been that articulate in a long time.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item.
Agenda forecast.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is your agenda forecast. As per the Commission request, we are canceling our next meeting, which would fall on April the 24th. And then our next meeting following that is May the 8th. We really have nothing other than the advertising budget expenditure report, but I'm sure by that point we'll have plenty of other items to do. I often mention our hearings and such. We currently have one that's ongoing. We thought we were having one this evening, but that matter was was resolved, and so we will not be needing that particular hearing. So that difficult for me to forecast what might come up, but essentially this is what we've got thus far. So, have questions?
Any questions on the agenda forecast? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next item.
Civil Service Commission, staff comments.
Any comments from our commissioners? Staff?
Mr. Chair, if I may, you might notice there's one less staff member out in the audience, and something came up rather quickly, but many of you know Alex Soto from my staff. He's has taken a job with another city. We're sad to see him go, but very happy for him. He has now been named the Human Resources Manager for the city of Bell Gardens, which is quite a big step up for him. But I think those of you who worked with him recognize him, a very capable guy, and we're very proud of him, the training that he received here, and obviously prepared him for bigger and better things. But we are sad to see Alex go, but I wanted to let the commission know about this. And like I said, it came up pretty quickly, so we didn't have really the opportunity to recognize him in person. Yesterday was, in fact, his last day. So anyway, we wish Alex the best of luck, and let the council or the commission be aware of that. So,
When is he coming for your job?
boy, one of these days.
No, I did work, I mean, just a phenomenal guy. We wish him well.
Amen.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, next item.
Closed session for the following item: public employee appointment, reinstatement, custodial worker. For the record, item 11B has been pulled off the agenda.
Okay. We will now be going into closed session. We'll ask anybody not associated with this item to please leave. And we will be reporting out, but not on television, with the result of the closed session item.